You're listening to The Fatboy Show on your number one station, RX Radio. And in case you spent the weekend watching your favorite movie or favorite TV series, understand that there are people behind the scenes who make it happen. The script writers who write the beautiful scripts for those stories you enjoy. And then the actors who enact those scripts in front of the cameras. All of them working together to produce that masterpiece of a TV show that you enjoy or movie. These guys have been on strike for the better part of the last month or so.
Yeah.
The Screen Actors Guild and the Actors Guild, and I'm talking about Hollywood specifically. They've been on strike because among the things they're complaining about is they want better residual payments. I'm meant to understand it's mostly related to streaming.
Yeah.
Because streaming is where most of the new content is being produced. There is an extraordinary amount of content being produced and hosted on streaming platforms for which they feel they're not getting adequately compensated. And then there is the issue of AI. They feel like AI is threatening to take their jobs, and they want guarantees that AI will not be used to, for example, write scripts or to recreate their likeness to be used in perpetuity without further compensation.
Yes.
So you are an actor. What do you think about this strike?
The strike is very valid. If anything, I would say it's about damn time that something was done.
So why do you say that? Because the ordinary movie viewer thinks, well, you're getting paid. You got paid to be on the episode.
Yeah.
To write the episode. So what's the problem?
No, you got paid to write the episode, but the way writers are treated, for example, right? It's executives make last-minute changes and just cram things down their throats and say, find a way to put it in the script. That is not my problem as an executive. A sponsor has paid for this movie, and you guys have to figure out how to do it. So often that is not done like respectfully. Like they come to you and say, oh, we apologize for the inconvenience. We know the script was finished a couple of months ago, but now we need these changes. No, you either make these changes or you're fired.
Okay.
We signed a contract with you, and you have to honor the contract regardless of the terms and conditions. So someone's going, and we've seen a lot of movies ruined by executives. But the writers take the flak for it.
Okay,
most of the time, yeah.
So is that a point of contention also? Is that something that they're challenging? They want there to be some sort of safeguard against that kind of meddling?
I think the meddling has to be considered as one of the factors. To be fair, executives usually know the money-making schemes a lot better than the writers.
And I think that's something writers may not want to take for granted. You know, because if you are and this is where I find that there's a clash between the creatives and the executives.
Yeah.
Because you could be the person with the brilliant ideas. But there has to be someone who knows how to take your idea and turn it into money.
Yes.
There's a lot of creative people sitting on ideas and they're broke.
They don't know how to make the money off it.
So both parties are equally important in this process.
True.
And I feel like neither party should see themselves as being superior than the other.
No. I'm not saying anyone should see themselves as superior or anything like that, right? It's just the executives are by default.
Superior.
Superior, yes. Because if they didn't set up the movie companies, there would be no writer jobs to begin with. There would be no gigs for the writers.
Right.
That is not to say that you treat the writers with disrespect. I've been in a writing room, right, for a sitcom and a TV series, and the way executives operate, this is what I want. You figure out how to get it done.
Okay.
I've figured out the financial bit. You figure out how you're going to reflect this. But also with this current crop of writers we have, like, I personally, I would be offended if I found out the She-Hulk writers are also on strike. Let me be honest.
This is now that you bring that up, I'm noticing that actors are feeling frustrated. They seem to be feeling like the public isn't really behind them.
The public is not anymore.
And partly this is because a lot of the shows that have been produced and even movies in the recent couple of years haven't been very good.
Yeah. It's been agenda-based.
And a lot of times agenda-based. They've infused politics now more overtly than they've ever done before. To where now every series has to have a gay person, a trans person, and this every relationship has to be interracial. I don't like that. I don't buy like every series, every movie I watch, it's a black and white couple. Look, I date white women sometimes, but even I know it's not that commonplace.
It's not, especially like, look at a country like Uganda. Like, it's, how often do you run into a white person? I mean, you see them.
You
right?
see them.
But how often do you see a white person walk up to them and start a conversation?
It's very rare.
Yeah, but now if Netflix did a show in Uganda, it would be, oh yeah, no, it's a black guy with a Latino friend, a Chinese friend, and I know there are people like that, but that does not represent.
Yeah, a Netflix series based in Uganda would have a Ugandan with an Indian best friend
and a pet chicken. For some reason, like they'll change something.
As in, these aren't impossible scenarios, but they're quite rare scenarios.
Very rare. It's not commonplace. Now,
So that's the challenge. And so a lot of the writing in many of the productions over the last few years have been that. There's been a lot of politics inserted into it. And you mentioned She-Hulk in particular is notoriously poorly received by fans.
They wrote it specifically to piss off the trolls, which for me is ironic.
They made the fans the antagonists in a series.
The fans the antagonists.
A first ever for a TV show.
And then celebrated when the fans were antagonized by the show they wrote. Now, I don't expect those writers to be on strike. If anything, just they are those who should just be ignored, to be honest. And then the reason why the public is not behind the actors is because the actors have themselves gone against the public when promoting their movies that people don't like.
So in other words, do you mean some of those examples of actors calling some of the fans racists?
Using the isms, calling them transphobic, homophobic, racist, because, oh, you're misogynistic because you don't want to watch Barbie.
I saw a lot of that with the Star Wars franchise, the Kenobi series, where people were not pleased with a black character.
Reva. Who, the bait and switch they pulled on us with Reva.
Exactly. Yeah. So most people's beef was with how it was poorly written. The character and the story was poorly realized. And so people voiced their complaints, which of course the studio turned it into a racial argument. Oh, so you don't like her just because she's black?
Yes.
And then Ewan McGregor, who plays Obi-Wan Kenobi, comes out with a video saying, if you're a racist, you're not a true Star Wars fan.
And I'm like,
this isn't for you.
This is not about race. It shocked me that Ewan McGregor himself couldn't see what they had done to his character. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a legacy character in Star Wars, right? Yeah. And he had Darth Vader. Pretty much. The mask is half sliced. All you have to do is end Darth Vader. And he walked away. So all of the galaxy's problems after that incident is Obi-Wan Kenobi's fault.
So in other words, they made him look rather incompetent.
And they've been doing that with every single male character, every legacy male character.
This is true.
The bait and switch keeps happening, and then the very actors whose characters you're trying to protect are going against you, the fan, who's trying to tell them, hey, this could have been done better.
And if you dare point that out or raise a complaint, the actors, the producers, and the writers all call you a racist or a sexist or a homophobe. Yeah. Transphobe.
So the funny thing is, Hollywood has been on strike for close to a month, and nobody misses it. That's the saddest part. Like, usually this strike would be daily trending news, right? It would be, oh my god, we need to get
remember the first writers' strike.
2009, 2008?
Yeah. That's had a bit of an impact.
Exactly.
People were talking about it, and yet now people seem indifferent. All the late night shows are off the air, and no one cares.
No one's asking about Conan O'Brien. Jimmy Fallon. Life has moved on. Now it's ironic that with all this social media presence, with all this digitalization, 14 years later, 14 years after the last Writers Guild strike, we have more access to information, but there's just way less information about this strike. It's like the audience is also done.
I think people don't care, and there is an argument to be made about how this might end up backfiring spectacularly. I mean, first of all, it's likely that they will not achieve the objectives they're seeking.
Yeah.
I've heard that the studios are writing this out, waiting for these guys to start starving and getting eviction letters. Then they'll come to the negotiating table and they'll iron things out.
Especially the writers, because I think the actors still have savings.
Okay. Yeah. And then there's the aspect of relevance. If you have been taken off the air for a long time and your absence has not really resonated with the masses, essentially, aren't you signaling to the masses that you are no longer relevant, and so you're useless?
Yeah.
At least while you were still on the air, you could sort of give the illusion that you had some sort of relevance. But if you come back, if tomorrow Fallon or all these guys, Colbert, they go back on the air and they say, hey, we're back, I have a feeling that the viewership is even going to be lower than before, because most people feel like, I don't need these guys.
Yeah, because
I need to watch this crap.
Yes, because this has even affected the good ones, if I can call them that. Like, you would think people would be making noise about Jon Stewart, at least.
Jon Stewart.
He came back with his other late night show.
Is he on Apple?
I think yes.
Okay.
I think he's on
Apple TV.
Apple TV. He came back with his late night show. And
even his show was impacted?
all shows have been impacted.
Okay.
But I'm one of those people who would shout out to Jon Stewart, because I grew up watching Jon Stewart, right? And I'm like, yeah, Jon Stewart.
He was so good back in the day.
He was amazing. But I think even he went into the agenda politics of
Too
the current
much.
generation. And
He's now too biased, I feel. He's taken a clear side on those cultural debates, and so I find him less interesting.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where people are just done. It's Hollywood has bad lit itself.
It has, hasn't it?
It has bad lit itself.
So what about the aspect of the residuals? So I have heard that one of the challenges with this argument is if they wish to seek better residual rates and payments, part of it will require full disclosure on the part of the streaming services to disclose actual viewerships, because right now this information is secretive. It's not transparent. Netflix will announce, this show was streamed 10 million times. We have no way of verifying that.
The only show I can believe that for is Money Heist and Squid Game.
Okay, but
for those two, I think I would believe.
But you see, now with all of the streaming platforms available now, Disney, Amazon, Apple, and all the rest of them, it is them that tell us how many viewers they're getting.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So some are speculating that it's quite possible that these numbers are inflated, and it could turn out, if there's full disclosure, full discovery, in these writers and actors demand better rates and better residuals, they could find that a lot fewer people are watching these shows than has been reported.
Way fewer.
Which would end up with all of them essentially, it would exponentially worsen their situation, because if it is revealed that these shows aren't even watched all that much, so let's say you're a writer on She-Hulk and you're there demonstrating you want more pay, and it turns out that the show actually got less than half of what was previously reported, wouldn't that be an argument for why you should even be paid less?
It's an argument for why you should be paid less, and it's also to the detriment of the company itself.
Because they would be forced to cancel such a show.
Yes. Isn't Bob Iger under fire from the Disney executives and stuff?
Well, yeah, I know that Disney is suffering. They're losing subscribers for their streaming platform.
And they lied about a lot of statistics regarding their shows.
Oh,
and
did
viewership.
they? I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, apparently they were not giving accurate information. They were blowing up numbers to make the numbers make sense.
Okay.
Because the guys funding these shows, the guys pumping money into Disney are like, we are not seeing returns on investment.
Right.
And they're like, no, streaming is working. I think streaming only worked for lockdown. And a lot of these studios took it for granted that because people are locked indoors, we can just give them whatever the hell we want them to watch.
Some argued that that was the whole point of the lockdowns, that these tech companies conspired to, because you'll remember the tech companies were notorious for disseminating sort of pro-lockdown messaging and discouraging and censoring anti-lockdown messaging because lockdown served their interests.
Yeah.
Lockdown was... Jeff Bezos made a fortune during lockdown because everyone was buying their groceries from Amazon now.
Yeah.
They were locking down the neighborhood grocery store. You couldn't buy from the neighborhood mom and pop store.
But it could be delivered.
To you
as
by
if
Amazon.
COVID will ask for transport. Be like, hey, they didn't give me transport, so I'm not going with that package.
You see, so even then the idea of the metaverse was hatched with that mindset of, hey, everyone's at home, so everything's got to be virtual now. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these guys, and to not go too far into the deep end, but a lot of these guys could have even been part of the conspiracy to make this a thing, the pandemic a thing and the lockdown a thing, because it served their interests.
It did.
I hold that view.
Yeah, but the hubris caught up with them because Hollywood started making movies for Hollywood. not for the viewers.
Not for the viewers.
It's me. I'm going to make what I want to watch, and you should watch it with me, or you're a bad person. And that mentality has backfired. Me, honestly, if this takes us back to better quality, them seeing how crappy the series are now, and putting the writers in their actual place, and acknowledging these are diversity hires. You get, if they could do us that favor and acknowledge that a lot of the hiring they've done in the last couple of years is just to fill quotas, but it's not doing anything for entertainment. That would be a first step in revolutionizing Hollywood and taking it back to where it was, like, let's say, like in this Hollywood glory days.
I would say 90s, early 2000s.
90s, okay. I think by the 90s, Hollywood had started running mad. Remember the action movies of the 80s and 90s? I loved those things. They were wild.
Well, I mean, the 90s had a few crowning jewels. I mean, who can forget the first Matrix?
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps one of the most influential action films of the last 20 years.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Face Off.
Jerry Maguire. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, the 90s were...
Terminator 2. The 90s were actually a very good time.
I actually believe that culture peaked in the 90s. Pop culture peaked.
I'm not going to lie.
The music was the best that it ever became. The movies, the entertainment, the sitcoms. Because today, the most viewed comedy shows like on streaming, I think, is Seinfeld. Isn't it?
Seinfeld is still among the most
Friends.
Friends is
People
back.
are watching Friends and they're not watching any of the new ones because the new ones are so boring, they're so woke, they're so politically correct.
I don't understand how you can have a comedy devoid of humor. That's the part that's baffling me about
a lot of the comedy is so preachy.
It's preachy and it's meant to make one side laugh and lecture the other side. And we all know which sides we are talking about. It's every other race lecturing white people. It's every other gender lecturing men. It's always, what are they called? The socialists lecturing capitalism. As if they don't survive on the same form. Right? So I don't understand.
The biggest irony.
Yeah, Hollywood thrives on capitalism, but they're preaching against it. Barbie itself preached against capitalism.
And yet it's raking in millions of dollars at the box office.
Exactly. Millions of dollars at the box office. How many millions of dollars worth of dolls sold?
And I don't think they're going to freely distribute Barbie dolls anytime soon.
I don't think. Not for charity, man.
Well, you're an actor, so where's your solidarity?
My solidarity...
You're an actor, writer, producer, director. I mean, I think you'd be fully on board with them.
Yo, my solidarity is with quality production, honestly.
Okay.
Because, yes, the writers have a right to argue for better pay, right?
Yeah.
And their residuals and all that. But you don't deserve it if you're putting out a crappy product. First of all, the executives need to handle their talent and their crew better.
All right.
As in, don't just throw changes and reshoots and random things because you're panicking based on what another company is going off of. You get? And then the actors need to remember that their role in society is to be celebrities and icons, not police and preachers or activists.
Well, unfortunately, even that I feel has changed because how can you be a celebrity when everyone's a celebrity now?
There's that.
Everyone with a social media account is just as much a celebrity or has potential to be as the next person.
Yes, all they need to do is pick up a phone and do something memorable. So you're competing with a 7-year-old using their mom's phone for attention from a generation that has an attention span of 15 seconds.
Right.
For a movie that's an hour and a half. That isn't entertaining.
It's a lost battle. I think it's already lost. So actors and they need to strictly see themselves as entertainers, dancing monkeys for our pleasure.
Because already they are no longer movie stars.
No.
It's
movie stars, that the concept of the movie star seems to not apply anymore.
It applies to a few. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Denzel I think is still a movie star.
Well,
honestly.
I mean, and previously they would have said Tom Cruise, but the recent film seems to be struggling.
Man, at his age, you're scared of breaking bones. It's not the same anymore. But good on him, man. Tom Cruise is the most legit official action movie star of late. But the actors really need to watch themselves because I think even they got too big for themselves at some point. And just coming out to give these preachy messages and critique people for not watching your product without understanding why they're not watching your product. Coming out and talking about climate activism, yet you're taking private jets.
Right.
You get
that stuff annoys people.
Pisses people off, and people are just like, look, if you're going to suffer a bit and understand a bit of life from our perspective, then you deal with that strike. It's not our problem.
Okay, so how much longer do you think it's going to last? Do you think is going to fold very soon?
The writers are going to fold fast.
The writers.
I'm giving them a month maximum for the writers to fold.
Because their fees are lower and their residuals are lower.
Yes, and also their pay was lower, so their savings are lower. It's like being the best dancer versus being the biggest musician.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest artist is going to fill up a concert venue and walk home with millions.
Mm-hmm.
The best dancer is going to choreograph the event and walk away with thousands.
Mm-hmm.
But who actually, choreographed the routine that made the show? It's the dancer.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a hierarchy in these things. The face of the product versus the person making it work.
Okay.
The director is going to make the movie look amazing, but the actor is the face. So the people who are paid less are usually going to fold fast because they need to continue sustenance and survival.
True.
The actors can hold out a little longer because they have endorsements and other deals besides being on screen in a film.
Wow. And of course, since a lot of these actors are lefties, flaming liberals, so they have no choice but to show solidarity.
And they're going to go with the same narrative that's destroying their industry.
So I watched the video posted by the lead actor of an upcoming film called Blue Beetle.
Mm-hmm.
And he was mentioning how, please, it's up to you, the fans, now to promote the film, because now I have to be in this strike, so I can't promote the film. I have to be on the right side of history. And the film already had dire projections, or even before this. I think they had estimated it to be able to bring in $19 million opening weekend, which for a film that cost, I think, 150, I don't know,
somewhere in that range.
In that range,
the exact number.
Yes, basically it's a flop in the making. My God, DC,
DC shot itself in both feet, both knees, and a butt. The graphics on Blue Beetle look legit though, but we're at a point whereby that's no longer enough.
It's no longer enough, and having watched the trailer, it looked extremely generic. It's like, alien suits in the hands of civilian government agents or corporate goons want it. It's like that's like every movie you've ever seen.
Wait, wasn't that the whole premise of what was it called? Guyver? There's that 90s movie called Mutronics.
I don't remember, but the concept is just so commonplace.
It's unoriginal.
It's so unoriginal. And then even if you look at the power set of this particular hero, he looks like a combination of Spider-Man with the funny
with the antlers,
whatever that is, and then a bit of Green Lantern
and Iron Man.
Yeah. Because apparently this gadget allows him to materialize weapons out of thin air.
Whatever he imagines.
That is essentially Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, yeah.
And then the suit looks like a mix of Iron Man and Spider-Man. And then the story is so generic. Oh, man.
And then, of course, diversity quota. It's Latino main character.
Oh, diversity! Finally, in the superhero franchise.
Well done, Hollywood. I'm waiting for the day they cast a white man as the Kabaka. You'll deal with Baganda.
Well, everyone's waiting for the Disney's Tarzan remake, and they're wondering if they'll cast a black man as the man that makes monkey sounds in the jungle. Since they're race swapping all their characters, and Tarzan is white traditionally, are they going to race swap him into a black man to be in a jungle with gorillas?
I'm going to laugh at that one.
They can't dare touch that.
They wouldn't. Elon Musk played by Tiger Woods. I think that's what we need to see. But Hollywood needs to style up, man. Let them just go back to entertaining people.
I'm telling you, they definitely need to
Hollywood.
do that.